Hello, it's Marlo from Wild Food UK, and today Attila and I are in Hampshire at the amazing Ewhurst estate near to Basingstoke, where we run some of our courses. Now the owner here has shown a keen interest in finding out what she has on her land, so Attila and I are here to have a look and see what mushrooms we can find. It's the 1st of November today, so this video is a November mushroom survey in Hampshire, and the first mushroom that we found is right down here. This is one that I have done a video on before, but it's one for all of you guys to know. We've got one of the ink caps here, and this one, normally you find it in groups of 2 or 3, but this one is the common ink cap, Coprinopsis atrotomentosa, I believe, or is it Atramentaria? One or the other. Either way, this is the common ink cap, and you can see those gills there, those very crowded gills, starting to deliquesce and turn into ink around the edge of the cap already. Now this one is off the menu nowadays. There's a toxin in here, or a chemical rather, in here that does not agree with alcohol whatsoever. So apparently if you eat this mushroom and drink alcohol within 48 hours, it can make you extremely sick. I believe the chemical has been synthesized and it's used in drugs like antabuse to try and help alcoholics, but that's what gave this mushroom its other name, the tippler's bane, because I've also heard some funny stories about wives in the Middle Ages spiking their husband's dinner before they go out. So there you go, the common ink cap. A lovely start. We haven't even left the car park. Okay, so we found the common ink cap just over there, and as often happens when you find the common ink cap, you can find its edible cousin, the shaggy ink cap, or the judge's wig, or the lawyer's wig it gets called, Coprinus comatus. Now this one you're perfectly fine to eat and have a beer afterwards, so this is the one that I tend to go for. It's a very mild flavoured mushroom, and quite a few people actually throw away the stem and just have the cap, and don't pick these and then leave them in your fridge overnight, because all you'll come back to in the morning is a puddle of black ink. These both of these mushrooms actually used to be used to make ink before we started using the iron gall. I think it is what most things were written down in, ink made from the iron gall, which is a round wasp gall after the Doomsday Book, I believe. But up until then, most of the ink we had in the UK was made from these 2 mushrooms. There you go. So this one is definitely not for the forager's bag. This one I do pick, but if there's porcinis and other things around, it's a mild flavoured mushroom, so I leave it behind. Anyway, nice start. 20 feet, 2 lovely big mushrooms. Okay, well we found a little hot spot where there's a big diversity of mushrooms here just within a few feet of me. Unfortunately, we were here a bit too late for our penny bun. That is a rotten old Boletus edulis. We've also got quite a few beech milk caps, probably Lactarius blenius, which were in my last video, so I'm not going to talk about those. We have got a very interesting russula growing with beech with a red cap. Now all of our russulas, you might have seen me do this in videos before, they're known as the brittle gills because the gills flake like almonds, and the stem should snap, even though this is quite a moist one, should snap a bit like a piece of chalk. Now, with the russulas, it's almost impossible to ID them to species in the field. So what you have to do, if you know you've got a russula, and only if you know you have a russula, do not take any chances with anything that you are not totally sure of. But if you have a russula, what you have to do to figure out whether it's edible or not is actually have a little nibble. Now, I'm reasonably sure I'm not going to enjoy this. Little nibble on the tip of my tongue, and oh yes, I'm getting quite a hot burning sensation on the tip of my tongue here. I'm not going to spit it out, just to prove a point to you. That tiny little bit of this, what I have now confirmed to myself as the beechwood cycner, is a very mildly toxic mushroom. If you were to eat this, it would make you sick. But that tiny little bit that I just nibbled is not going to do me any harm whatsoever. And that's what you do with the russulas. Basically, all of the ones in this genus of mushrooms that are going to make you sick, and none will do any worse than that, they burn your tongue like a piece of chili. And my tongue is burning quite fiercely right now, so I won't be eating this. But let's play a little game. There's some mushrooms here playing a game of hide and seek. So if you, without taking too many steps, Attila, I think spin round. And around here, don't know if you can see them, guys, but we have one of the most gourmet mushrooms known to man. Have you seen any yet? Here, let's focus over here. Let's get that old russula.
What do you mean?
No, that's another beechwood cycner, Attila.
Sorry for that.
But you just,
Rookie
hold on,
mistake.
back to the beechwood cycner. And pull the camera this way and stop.
Oh, I
Just
can't see.
there.
I only
Just
see
the,
beech
just
mush-
just here.
Oh yes.
Right, okay. What we've got here, this one's a bit old and tired, but there's lots of younger ones around. Just over here is a nice little young cluster of our horn of plenty. Craterellus cornucopoides, named after the cornucopia, a horn that apparently provided food aplenty. And that relates quite well to this mushroom, because when you spot one, stand totally still, because the chances are there are hundreds more around. And if you rewind the little video that we did just now, you'll see quite a few that you might not have spotted first time round. Anyway, the horn of plenty, or the trompe de mort, as it's known in most restaurants. Strangely, because I'm not sure that the trumpet of death is something that sounds particularly gourmet or appealing to eat, but apparently dead bodies used to use this mushroom to trumpet up from underground. It does an incredible job of hiding in amongst all of the beech leaf litter and beech mast that we've got lying around here. So, as I said, hard to spot. But when you see one, stand still, because there's normally a lot more around. It's turning into quite a good day so far, Attila. What else? There's just so much around today. I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 different mushrooms in the space of 15 feet. I'm going to start with an old favourite. If you watch the channel, if you've watched our other videos, you'll recognise this, our amethyst deceiver, which does potentially have one lookalike, I suppose, a sort of sketchy lookalike in the lilac fibre cap. But the big difference between the amethyst deceiver and the lilac fibre cap is those bright purple gills. The lilac fibre cap will have sort of creamy white gills, and this is a mushroom that we are finding by the thousand today. It's an edible, and I use it just to brighten up the colours in my dishes. You don't need to cook it for very long. It's a mild mushroomy flavour. quite a good one for the pot really, as far as I'm concerned, because you can find it in such profusion. Right beside it there's 2 or 3 others, but here's a nice safe one for any beginners amongst you. Easy to ID. This is a common puffball, Lycoperdon pilatum, and all, full stop, all white puffballs in the UK are edible. Can't be simpler than that. You do have to rule out the puffball lookalikes though, our stinkhorns and our amanita eggs and the earth ball, which I think I'm going to show you a little bit later on. It's not one that I consider to be a good edible. It's quite bland in flavour, but it does soak in marinades because of its spongy, marshmallow-like texture. The common puffball, Lycoperdon pilatum, but let's head this way, trying not to tread on the myriad of fungus. Here's a beautiful looking crested coral. What's the scientific name for this one, Attila?
If not mistaken, Clavulinopsis coralloides.
Coralloides, right, okay. It's a complicated group, and the truth is that I don't eat any of the coral fungus. Some of them are quite uncommon, and it's particularly difficult to ID them to species unless you are someone who specialises in the corals. So leave any of these beautiful corals behind, and that's a particularly lovely one. No, just here we have our amethyst deceiver's close relative. This is one of the orange deceivers. Let's see if I can ID it to species. Looking for a bit of a scurfy top. No. Looking for different colours on the stem. No. What I believe here is, what I believe we have here is the Laccaria laccata, the deceiver itself. A perfectly edible mushroom. Look at that twisted stem that we have there. Typical of all of the Laccarias. It's almost like they're having a little disco in the woods is how I describe it, because they seem to do this for no particular reason. It's not like they're following the sun as far as I'm concerned, and it's not like they're growing strange shapes to get around twigs or logs or bits of grass that have tied them down, which other mushrooms do. They just seem to grow in funky shapes for their own funky reasons. This is an edible mushroom, but it's not one I'm going to recommend to any beginners, because there are some lookalikes for the orange deceivers. The amethyst deceivers, the purple ones, as long as you can be sure that they've got those purple gills, then they're one that I consider safe for even the most beginner forager around. Let's head over here though, because there's a few more interesting things. We have some mushrooms over here. We're going to complete the set of our... Oh, what you got there, Attila?
The same, just colonized by Ascomycetes mushroom.
Oh, okay. Well, come a little bit further. Here's something a little bit fatter though. That I don't think is the crested coral, Attila.
No, it's most probably the wrinkled club.
The wrinkled club.
Clavulina rugosa.
Okay.
And as I see, it has a black or deep grey coloration all around, which means it might be colonized by the same Ascomycetes mushroom.
Okay. Okay, and right behind it, just in case you didn't spot, we're going to complete the set of our large ink cap mushrooms in this video. This is our magpie fungus, or the magpie ink cap. Coprinopsis picacia, I believe. Now, I did say that the shaggy ink cap is a reasonable edible, but I don't eat the common ink cap, mainly because it has a bad reaction with alcohol. This one is rated as inedible in most books, so I've never eaten this one. This one is the one of the 3 big ink caps that is off the menu. Anyway, there's quite a few mushrooms around in this little 15-20 foot patch, and there's a lot more to go and see. So should we keep walking, Attila?
Yes, we should.
Let's do that. Here's another extremely common mushroom, one for all of you guys to know about. It's not one that you can be totally sure of your idea of in the field, because there's two particularly similar members of the Mycena genus, the Mycena pura and the Mycena rosea. The rosy bonnet is what I believe we have here, largely because of its size and that tapering stem, which is fatter at the bottom. Those are the two things that I use to differentiate this and the Mycena pura. They are amongst the biggest of the Mycena, or the bonnet genus of mushrooms. And apparently there's a little bit of bioluminescence to them. They glow in the dark. So they've had the nickname the smuggler's mushroom, because I suppose apparently smugglers used to head off through the woods, leaving a trail of Mycena pura behind them to go and do their deliveries, and like Hansel and Gretel, follow their trail all the way back, or unlike Hansel and Gretel, I suppose, follow their trail all the way back. There we go. The Mycena pura, extremely common and not edible. None of the Mycenas are edible. Apparently there's trace amounts of muscarine in the whole genus. This one did used to get eaten, but it's certainly not one that I've ever eaten, and not one I would recommend you guys try either. Let's see if we can find something else. Another interesting little cluster of mushrooms around here. There's loads of Amanita citrinas. If you see the white mushrooms dotted around all over the place, those are white false death caps. And I recently did a video on the citrina and the citrina var alba, so check that for those. Down here though is another fantastic edible. Our winter chanterelle, Craterellus tubiformis. It's a hollow mushroom, and as that one's doing there, showing off why we at Wild Food UK call it the yellow legs. Almost looks like it's wearing a yellow pair of trousers. You'll have those very clear chanterelle, full skills. I don't know if the camera's picking them up. Maybe I'll pick the bigger one to show you. Full skills, like folds or wrinkles in the skin of the underside of the cap, not like the true bladed gills that we'll see on the mushrooms I'm about to show you. Anyway, these are gourmet mushrooms. I normally find them in coniferous woodlands, but here they're growing with beech. Right, so I was wandering around looking at the floor for mushrooms, and Attila came over to a wood pile, because as you all know, polypores are Attila's favourite thing. Now there's a few here. There's a few different saprotrophic mushrooms around. We've got our beech woodwort, all these little knobbly dark brown to black things. Do you know the scientific name for those, Attila?
Hypoxylon fragiforme.
Fragiforme?
Yeah.
What does that mean, fragiforme?
It's fragile. When it became mature, it's really fragile, brittle.
Okay, okay. Well, it's a good beechwood rotter. There's a lot of beechwood rotters in this woodland. And here's two more. We've got our hairy curtain crust right beside our turkey tails. So our turkey tail's in my right hand. If I turn it over, it should be white. Our hairy curtain crust, a bit of a lookalike. If I turn it over, as you can see, orangey colours. Now, I wouldn't have come over here for the beech woodwort or the turkey tails. They are both extremely common, but when Attila shouted the word Hericium, I was over the other side of the wood, and I nearly wet myself. Down here is a mushroom that I've only ever seen once before in my life. This is the tiered tooth, Hericium serratum, and this was found up near me in I think Gloucestershire or Herefordshire recently, and it made the home page of the BBC website as news. So yeah, that's how interesting a mushroom this is. I am not even going to touch this. It's not protected like its very, very close relative, the lion's mane fungus, but as far as I'm concerned, this should be one of the protected species in the UK. So come on over and get a close look, Attila, if you can. Watch the focus and you'll see the toothed nature of the spikes coming out. In fact, give it round here, just underneath this side here, trying not to get our shy Hungarian in the shot. You can see the toothed nature underneath and above this amazing shelved structure. So if this was lion's mane, there would be one big blob with lots of spikes coming out of that. But this is not lion's mane. This is our tiered tooth, an absolutely fantastic find for today, and one I will certainly be reporting back to the landowners about. There's a happy face. And we just keep finding really cool stuff here today. There's, as I showed you, this is on the same log. We've got plenty of our hairy curtain crust, and if all you saw was this here, you could be forgiven for thinking that this was hairy curtain crust too, but I just broke off this bit, and look at that giant beetle grub coming out. I'll try and hide him again before we leave, but it looks quite a lot like our hairy curtain crust, but it's not. If you turn it over, you'll see a very different structure underneath the cap there. This is one of our maize gills, and Attila assures me that this is the birch maize gill, even though it's growing on beech. Apparently it grows on a fair few different varieties of tree. Now this is a mushroom in the Trametes group, so it does look a little bit like your turkey tails, but this one is Trametes betulina, I think, or something along those lines. The betula family is the birch family, so it makes sense that this, the birch maize gill, which has this amazing maize structure underneath its frond, has the name betulinus. Now I'm just going to cover up that grub, try and make him comfortable again. There he is. And hopefully he won't get spotted by the local birds. Anyway, lovely tree and some lovely fungus. So we've got a bit more dead beech down here and a bit of birch in amongst it, and on the beach we've got this absolutely beautiful mushroom which has actually got a beech nut sitting on top of it. Now, unlike the birch maizegill, this is a mushroom that is exclusive to beech. It's a porcelain fungus which always has this very, very slimy cap. Could you come and get a little close-up of this if I run my finger over the cap and show you? Get lots of slime. There's some just there coming off of the mushroom. Udomanciella muscida, which is, to me, a good edible mushroom, but it's about the only mushroom that I actually wash before I fry it. If I'm making soup or anything like that, then I won't bother, but I wash that slime off of the cap as quickly as I can before I'm frying these mushrooms. Now, as you can see, it's white all over. There's a bit of discolouring on the stem there, and it has a white skirt reasonably close to the top of the cap. And it gets called the porcelain fungus. Where's the best bit of sunshine? Because, like porcelain, it's reasonably translucent. Exclusive to beach, and usually a late autumn mushroom. So a lovely one to find as a forager, because when you find a little patch of it, normally if you look up on the tree that it's growing on, you find that there's quite a few more, and it really stands out. Beautiful white mushroom. So there's some porcelain fungus. The saprotrophs are winning today over the mycorrhizal fungus for finds so far. Let's see if we can find some mycorrhizals that are nice and interesting as well, though. There's not going to be many more beautiful than that, though. I did say that when you find a porcelain fungus, you quite often find a few of them, but this is ridiculous. Let's have a look down here. They start on this fallen branch, and follow me round, Attila. There's plenty of youngsters on this other part of that same fallen branch, and they come along here. Some more little babies creeping out of every crack in the bark. Here's a mature one. Well, actually this one started to decompose. That's what they look like when they start to rot. And here I'm going to put Attila's camera work under pressure, because have a look at those, and then stop where you are and pan back a little bit, sir. Because on this 50-foot standing dead beech tree, we have an amazing cluster of porcelain here, which we're happily sharing with a slug. But if you go up the tree, up the bough, you'll see that every part of the 50 feet of this tree is absolutely covered in porcelain fungus. It would be a very slippery tree to climb right now. Even the branches that would have made up the canopy of the tree are covered in our Udomantiella macida. There you go, bring it down and zoom out. And come on forward, watch where you tread. Just this once, Mr. Slug. We're very happy to share. Let's get that leaf off. Get that out of the way for you. Beautiful mushrooms, and I think this is the most I've ever seen. Attila, have you ever seen more than this?
No, not in my life.
There you go. Today's a winner. Let's find some more. And today we've found both types of saddle, or the black and the white one really, not all the types of saddle that you get in the UK. Down here we've got Helvella lacunosa. Beautiful mushroom. Look at that structure. A fantastic find. And just over there, yeah, we're not filmmakers, forgive me. Here is the white saddle, Helvella crispa. And there's our elfin saddle, Helvella lacunosa. Beautiful, incredible mushrooms. Are these saprotrophic, Attila?
As far as I know, yes.
Right, okay, so because I find them in lots of different environments. There's no specific environment for these. It's where they're rotting down bits of leaf litter and other detritus.
Yes, I normally found them under hardwoods, deciduous woods. So never under conifers.
Okay.
But I'm not a specialist of them.
Oh, what's that? I have eaten these in the past, guys. I do not recommend them. I don't think they're particularly good at all as edibles, but try them if you want to. As you can see, the white one always gets quite a bit bigger than the black one in my experience. Well, maybe twice as big as this is the biggest of the black ones, or the elfin saddles that I've found, whereas this one I've seen possibly twice as big as that one. So this can be a very large, very fine structured mushroom. Beautiful finds. Let's find some more. Everywhere today has been a hot spot, and down here we found 3 or 4 different types of mushroom, and they're in a beautifully scenic place, so we thought we'd go through them here. Come on down, let's look at these big fellas first. Well, actually this is quite pretty. So just over here, to keep Attila happy, we've got this beautiful run of Trametes versicolor. And then out of another one of the roots, we've got these giants, absolutely enormous honey fungus, which to me makes me think that these are probably Armillaria gallica. There's some just there that are even bigger. Now the Armillarias are typified by a honey-coloured cap with this sort of dotted speckling all over the cap, and you often see this circular pattern with the kind of almost grisette-like edge to the cap and darker in the centre. They all have a long stem in comparison to the cap, and the skirt on the honey fungus is always very close to those almost honey-coloured gills. Now these are one that Mandy will not be pleased to hear about. They're a necrotrophic mushroom. They're also, then they turn into a saprotrophic mushroom. These are a tree killer. They're a mushroom that will infect elderly and ill trees normally, and it's something that can finish them off, unfortunately. But I reckon honey fungus has probably been on the British Isles longer than humans, and I'm pretty sure humans have killed more trees than this has over that time. They're a part of our ecosystem, and they make space for the new fresh trees to grow, if you like. Obviously, if you've got your favourite oak in your back garden covered in this stuff, then I feel for you. But yeah, honey fungus. They're eaten by most people without any consequences, but I do know that they make some people quite sick, and the reports I've heard, first-hand reports, have been sickness for 24 hours plus. So if you've never tried honey fungus before and you want to, the first time you eat it, you should only eat a small amount. But when there's hedgehogs and winter chanterelles and other things like that around, I'd leave the honey fungus behind. Now the honey fungus is sharing this little area with another saprotroph, one of the most commonly recorded mushrooms in the UK because it's bright yellow and it grows out of wood, often out of stumps at waist height. Now this one down here is one of the biggest I think I've ever seen. These are our sulphur tufts. They grow in tufts and they're sulphury yellow, apart from on the gills where you should see a bit of an olivaceous green iridescence as I move the gills around. This is an extremely common mushroom, and it certainly isn't edible. You can see though, grows in the same places as our honey fungus. It looks quite similar from the top, but those gills with that olivaceous green tinge and no skirt should help you tell the difference. Sulphur tufts and one of the honey fungus. I think Armillaria gallica. Can we be sure, Attila?
No, we never can be sure.
Well, we can sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Now, dotted around all around here in the grassland, we're finding this mushroom, which looks superficially a bit like either, well, possibly like a wax cap. Now, you could maybe mistake this for your snowy wax cap, but note that the gills aren't as decurrent as that you see on the snowy. Now, you would easily, though, differentiate this from the snowy wax cap if you used your nose. I'm going to do that now. Have a nice sniff. And I've got a very clear smell of aniseed. This is a Clitocybe. It's the Clitocybe fragrans, or the fragrant funnel. And just recently I did a video on the Clitocybe odora. That one is an aniseed smelling mushroom that is edible. It's green though. This one, as you can see, is off-white, or sort of almost pale brown if you like. So hopefully that should mean you don't mistake this for the Clitocybe odora, because this one is poisonous. Don't eat your fragrant funnels. And here's one for those of you that are new to the channel or new to foraging. This is one of the best edibles and one of the safest mushrooms on the planet to pick. Just here, we've got a nice cluster, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 lovely hedgehog fungus. I do hope the camera can pick up those amazing spikes under the cap. So we've got the wood hedgehog here, which is a white, irregular, when I say irregular, they're not perfectly round, they're wavy and wobbly. Irregular capped mushroom with spikes under the cap, which in Britain means that you have an edible mushroom, and they are a fantastic edible as far as I'm concerned. They've got a lovely sweet mushroomy flavour and a lovely firm texture. What you can do with this mushroom is scrape off those spikes, because they're not really of any culinary value, make your food look a bit messy, and that's where any viable spores on the mushroom are. So by scraping them off on your way home or in your own garden, you give yourself a chance of growing some hedgehogs for yourself. Anyway, this is a real beginner's mushroom and a really fantastic edible. It's also particularly common and widespread. So if you're new to mushroom foraging, this is certainly one to look out for. So I think that's going to be it for this video. We found too much to put into one video, and we haven't even got halfway around. So I thought I'd finish here with my favourite find of the day and say I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you want to find out more, go to wildfooduk.com. I don't know, I've got short little legs. Oh, yeah.
I told you.
Oh, cha-chink.